Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2021 mystery thriller, The Ripper Untold. Now, before we get around to sharing more of my thoughts on this film, I would like to give a special shout out to Daniel for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. The link to both will be in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, The Ripper Untold is one of those films that honestly, going in, I didn't expect much from it at all. It's from the same guy who did Bram Stoker's Van Helsing, which is one of the most boring and forgettable vampire movies I've ever seen in my entire life. So I had very low expectations for this film going in, and it was surprisingly tolerable. I'm not going to say that it was good, let alone great, but it was one of those below average films that if there were just a few elements of it that were improved upon, it could at least be a time waster. And that's saying a lot for this particular director and writer's filmography. So many of the films that he's done, when you look at the reviews, when you look at his overall scope and his breadth of work, it's not impressive. It's a lot of bombs, a lot of flops, a lot of just straight to Tubi trash. And I can see why some people aren't fans of this film, but compared to other things that I've seen that have been directed to Tubi, this was watchable. And I think Steve Lawson's direction is not that bad. I'm not going to say that it's super dynamic or anything. It's very limited, but I think because of the fact that he's not doing a supernatural film this time around that deals with a vampire, and he's directing a movie that deals with just the investigation of a murder mystery, I think his stripped down, scaled back style of directing that is very stodgy and stage play esque, I think it fits better with a film like this. So the direction, it's not amazing, but it's serviceable. It's adequate enough, and I think he does a good job in terms of getting some very natural and strong performances out of his cast and building some genuine tension in scenes and knowing how to provide the right amount of atmosphere and mood for a particular shot and knowing when to linger on things in order to get the most out of the emotion in a scene. So yeah, I think the fact that there's barely any green screen, there's not any like really bad CGI effects or anything, I think that's also something that works in this film's favor and in the favor of the director Steve Lawson, because now he's not having jarring moments of just piss poor quality. Um and yeah, it's not a bad film when it comes to the directing, especially for a really cheap production. The writing by Steve Lawson, I think is also pretty okay. I'm not going to say that it's great. I think it's very average because there's 50% of the script that's surprisingly decent, and then there's another 50% of the script that is pretty bad. And the first half of the script is where it's pretty bad. Like the first half of the script is just so painfully generic and dull. It's establishing the characters and the setting and the murders and so on and so forth, but it does it in such a boring way, and it doesn't feel like it's anything that you haven't seen before when it comes to a story about Jack the Ripper. But once it starts to become a whodunit, once it starts to focus on red herrings and different plot twists, that's where the film actually gets somewhat compelling and kind of interesting. And when you start following around this character in Locke, and he starts becoming a potential suspect for the Ripper murders, things really get mysterious and in a legitimately good way. And then when it seems like he's crossed off the list of suspects and this other unexpected guy is now in the forefront and is now the number one suspect, things get even more intriguing. And then when that guy gets crossed off, and then you find out who really was Jack the Ripper, according to this script, it's surprising. It's a twist I did not see coming, and I think it did a good job mixing in kidney pie in there as well, in a very gruesome fashion. So yeah, there's some nice bits of dialogue at times. There's some good moments for the characters to really show their stuff when it comes to whatever depth that they have, especially Locke as well as Reese. There's a really tense scene where Reese is interrogating this new suspect, and the back and forth between the two characters is really palpable. And it's just one of those things where, yeah, the script is not what I would consider to be an A tier quality screenplay, but for a direct to streaming, low budget production, and for a script that was probably written in a matter of days, it's at least a C grade script. And that's something that is kind of an accomplishment because it seems like a lot of these movies that this guy, Steve Lawson, wrote and he also directed it. It's like an assembly line. He did multiple films and wrote multiple movies all in one year, and just one after another. And so for the script to just be there, to just be somewhat all right, or just be okay in general, because it's like a 50-50 sort of thing. That's that's pretty good. Uh, But the best part of the film to me is its cast, and mainly two performers. Jonathan Hansler as Locke and Phil Malloy as Reese. I thought the two of them were just terrific. They were the anchors for this film. They had most of the screen time. They had to carry the movie. I thought they did a good job doing that. And I thought the performances were just really strong. And it helps that they were accomplished theater actors. They had done theater work before they were cast in this film, and it really does show. There's a certain professionalism that's on display here, and I really did feel there was a lot of different layers and nuances that both of them brought to their characters. Just a very natural and anything but generic performance by the two of them. Like, I was really drawn to the screen at times when it comes to these two characters because of these performers, because of the work that Jonathan Hansler and Phil Malloy uh, put into the film. Jacob Anderton was fine too as Dodd, so is Chris Bell as Stubb, or Marcus Langford as the constable, or Dawn Butler as Miss Levine. Especially during the ending of the movie. Uh, she she gave me some goosebumps at times. It was a very chilling performance in the film's finale. And yeah, it's not a film that's going to win any awards when it comes to the acting, but for a film like this, the performances were a lot better than they normally are by the majority of the cast. And you could really tell that the actors, they were up for it. They were into it. They were passionate about this movie. They weren't just there to take a paycheck. Like, they really were true professionals. Now, when it comes to other aspects of the film, it's not really that impressive. I mean, the cinematography by John O'Neill is nothing really that special. Uh, Neither is the special effects by Stephanie Harrison, which a lot of them is just aftermath gore. That's one thing that is a little disappointing when it comes to a Jack the Ripper movie. Everything is just post-attack stuff. Like, oh, there's an actress who's laying there on the ground, and she has like a cheap looking throat slash, and that's really all you get. Um, I don't know who edited the movie, but the editing at times is a bit off. It's one of those films where it has this weird fade to black fetish at times where you're like, why are you fading to black here? It just looks like you're waiting for a commercial break. It's just awkward. There's other editing bits where they're trying to throw in flashbacks or make Locke into a guy who's like having nightmares or having hallucinations or having flashbacks to things that happened or he thinks might have happened to try to make you think that he's a Ripper, but the way that they're thrown in there is very hastily done. Um and the music, I can't even find whoever did the music for this. I it's a whole bunch of nothing. It really is. It's like who cares? Like it's just mood music, not something that really stands out. But for a film that is taking a concept that has been done so many times in terms of the Jack the Ripper movie, it still manages to put its own unique twist on things, and I give it a lot of credit for that. And it also like it's not a long movie either. Like it's only like an hour and what is it? Yeah, an hour and 25 minutes, and that's with the end credits. So you take out the end credits, it's even shorter. And I know, like, doesn't seem like I have a whole lot to say when it comes to the movie because that's true. I mean, it's a very simple, kind of bare bones film, but because of that, it masks some of the limitations of Steve Lawson as a director and as a writer, and it becomes a film that isn't really special, but it's at least watchable, and that's that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like so especially when it comes to these kind of films, like having it just be watchable is kind of a win because a lot of these movies are just the complete opposite. So, would I recommend it? Probably not. I would only recommend it really if you're a diehard fan of Jack the Ripper and you want to see a different take on this case, a different kind of film featuring Jack the Ripper. But if not, yeah, you should probably skip it. Another reason why I would maybe recommend it is if you like, you know, British mystery shows because it kind of has that sort of vibe like an episode of a British mystery show. If you're into that kind of stuff, then this definitely could be up your alley. Um, like mystery or masterpiece theater or that kind of thing. If none of that interests you, then this is definitely something you should not even bother with because I think you'll mostly be bored by it. But you know what? For a film that I went into it expecting absolute just stinking, rotting garbage, the fact that it's just, you know, a little stale, that's not bad. That's pretty good. It's pretty decent. But anyway, I don't really know what else to say about The Ripper Untold, except thanks for watching my review, and until next time, I'll see you later.